More blast from the past, he says? Maybe. Don't ask me why my song just restarted. Can you guys see anything on the screen right now? Yeah, it went black. Okay, cool. What? Excuse me. There it is. Okay. Wow. Whew, can I have a second just to take a deep breath on that one? That was kind of scary. All right. Hi everybody. Hi Professor JC. Oh, welcome. Okay. Sorry. That black screen really scared me. So, anyway, more blast from the past, he asks. That's a lot of plurals. Blasts from the past. Yeah, you could say, I've dressed for the occasion. Let's take a look. Whoa! What? What's up? Oh man. Hold on. I gotta make a few things right over here. Where's my music? Oh, it's there. We're good. Whoa! I want to note, this is just cosplay. Minami, the outer shell, is back. I figured, look, I'm going all out. With the last reading stream, I had the old starting screen too, but I'm like slowly transitioning into like, what's stopping me from having this appearance while I'm reading the story? But I do want to emphasize, I am not Kingdom Hearts Minami, like the personality. I'm still Goddess, but I changed my form. I thought it'd be cool. I thought you'd appreciate that. So, hi everybody! Welcome! Now that we're all here and out and about, tonight, transformation magic. Yay, magic functions, what you call it, whatever. So yeah, we are here tonight. I am looking like this because I am reading my Kingdom Hearts story for the evening. Woohoo! So, for those of you who don't know, this is spoiler territory if you want to get invested in this story. As you can see at the very top there, I'm on chapter 11. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, now is my disclaimer to say, hey, wow, thank you for liking the potential for this story so much that you don't want it spoiled, and then proceed to use the !KH command in chat, and you can get yourself right on over to AO3 to read chapters 1 through 10. But yeah, that's my disclaimer. For those of you who are caught up, I would like to do a little recap before we get super started. So yeah, Minami, whomst I am dressed as at the moment, it's cosplay. That's what this is just cosplay. She had just arrived at her, I guess technically second, new world after her own. She had first gone to Amestris, the land of Full Metal Alchemist, where she was, enlisted into their military as their official Keyblade wielder because, whoa, that's weird. She's like the only one that they're aware of in the entire galaxy. Wild. So, from there, she and her escorts, Mage and Knight Edward and Alphonse Elric, have been sent out on their first mission, which they are at their first destination now, here in the feudal era. So, yeah, I think they met Arakawa, the cow. She sells them stuff and saves their progress by very furiously and quickly drawing manga panels. Fun stuff like that. So, yeah, we are ready to start. Excuse me, I gotta clear my throat. I will start reading. Woohoo! Let me know if the music's too loud too. That's important to me. Oh, you can't even hear it. There it is. I got this, guys. Alright. Kingdom Hearts Anime AU by Minami VT, Chapter 11. After Kaede bid them farewell, Minami and the Elric brothers walked with Inuyasha and Kagome down a forest trail that led to the mountains. After a while of walking in silence, Minami was the first to— is my theme still playing? Gosh, I hate when I do that. Ugh! Thank you. Thank you, Professor, for calling that out. I am going to start over. After After Kaede bid them farewell, Minami and the Elric brothers walked with Inuyasha and Kagome down a forest trail that led to the mountains. After a while of walking in silence, Minami was the first to speak up. So, can I ask more about this Naraku guy? She asked. Like, what kind of fighter he is? Just so we know what we're dealing with. Well, he's literally made up of demons which all attack from his body, and uses all kinds of poison. Poison bugs, poison miasma, Kagome trailed off. But he also has a habit of bailing, so we can make short work of him and send him running with his tail between his legs, Inuyasha added. Is that music too loud now? Let me turn it down just a smidge. There we go. The group stopped in front of a dark-looking forest. Kagome stopped in her tracks, her brows furrowing. Inuyasha looked back at her. What's up? Minami and the Elric brother stopped walking and turned to her. I don't know, Kagome answered. I just suddenly got a bad feeling. Hi, Jen, welcome! Minami glanced back at the dark forest before looking back at her. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the forest does look scary. We should be alright, Al assured them both. Of course we're gonna be alright, Inuyasha said, matter-of-factly. I'm protecting you, remember? Minami noticed Kagome's cheeks flush a small tint of red, and couldn't help but grin at the sight of them. They're cute, she thought. Whoa! Whoa! Alright, sorry, I lost my place. I'm so cool. Right! And we're gonna protect you, Minami! Al's voice snapped her out of her thoughts. Huh? Minami looked back to Ed and Al, her smile fading a little. Yup, don't you worry, Ed said in agreement. Minami's smile faded entirely now. She remembered what Ed said earlier. All we can do is just guard Minami with our lives. Hey, let's get going already, Inuyasha said, not noticing that he spoke over Minami, to where Ed and Al didn't hear her. He was the first to run into the forest with Kagome on his back, and everyone followed him. Whoa, don't be sorry, Professor. The deeper they got into the forest, the creepier it got. The trees were withered instead of their lush green, and yokai were in place instead of standard woodland animals, scurrying out of the way as the group walked past them. Even looking up, they could see yokai flying overhead, but thankfully none of them swooped down to attack. The demons are fleeing this forest, Inuyasha said. So that means those heartless things are definitely ahead. We gotta be careful, Ed warned. Not all heartless are small fries like the ones we fought so far. Right, everyone nodded. Suddenly, Inuyasha came to a complete stop. What is it, Inuyasha? Kagome asked, as he let her off his back. I smell them, he reached for his sword. Watch it! They're coming! Suddenly, water discs came flying out of the brush to the side of them. Al stepped in front of Minami to deflect the discs from hitting her as she summoned the Keyblade. Inuyasha pulled out his sword, and Ed transmuted his automail arm into a blade. Starting to think there's no point in changing it back to normal, he muttered to himself. 2 Shadow Heartless emerged behind them, while 4 Kappa Heartless jumped out from the trees. Minami's eyes widened at the sight of 2 different Heartless appearing as well. They looked like clusters of snakes, centipedes, and other long creatures, all connected by the tips of their tails. She frowned in disgust. They were so gross-looking. The Kappa Heartless threw more discs of water towards the group, while the Cluster Heartless extended large serpent heads to snap down at them. Inuyasha and Kagome jumped to one side, while Ed jumped in the opposite direction, leaving Al and Minami together as they also dodged. Atomic Barrage! Inuyasha raised his sword that crystallized before he unleashed a blast of large crystal fragments at the Heartless, hitting them in the 2 clusters directly. Minami stood back to back with Al as she slashed at the Shadow Heartless. She figured that it was best to take out the Heartless she was most familiar with first, while observing the new ones and hoping she could see a weak spot. Just as a Kappa Heartless readied a water disc, Ed quickly casted Thunder. A lightning bolt came down on it, and its head began to evaporate and shrivel up. While it was stunned, he quickly took it out. Minami, I figured something out, he called. The weird ones with the turtle shells. If you can make the water evaporate, they'll dry up and be immobilized. Got it, Minami called back, managing to destroy the Shadow Heartless she was dealing with. Meanwhile, the other Shadow Heartless jumped on Inuyasha's back and bit his shoulder. Grah! He ripped it off his back and threw it into the air, then slashed it in 2 with his claws. Meanwhile, Al was taking on one of the Cluster Heartless. With every attack, some insects fell from it to the ground. Just as Kagome shot an arrow at it, some insects fell off to reveal a comb-like center with eyes. That's its weak spot! Minami casted Thunder to stun the Kappa Heartless in front of her, so that Ed could follow up with a slash combo with his automail blade. She then charged at the cluster Heartless, stabbing her Keyblade into the center. It was stunned. Minami kept the Keyblade inside the Heartless, casting 3 fireballs inside. With the 3rd round of flame, the cluster Heartless exploded. Meanwhile, Ed casted fire at the Kappa he was dealing with and destroying it. Minami then threw her Keyblade like a boomerang at the group of Kappa Heartless, managing to hit them all and do some damage. Ah, Ichigo, thanks for the head pats! Lost my place. I keep getting distracted, I'm sorry guys. The cluster Heartless exploded. Okay, meanwhile, Ed casted fire at the Kappa he was dealing with and destroying it. Minami then threw her Keyblade like a boomerang at the group of Kappa Heartless, managing to hit them all and do some damage. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer! Inuyasha clawed his way through the last Shadow Heartless, taking it out instantly. Ed clapped his hands and transmuted a cannon, shooting at the cluster Heartless in hopes to get it to reveal its center once more. But it suddenly extended its serpent hands, wrapping around him and Inuyasha, constricting them tightly. Minami took aim and casted fire at the cluster, making it release Ed and Inuyasha, as Al impaled a Kappa Heartless and annihilated it. He then turned to focus on the cluster, throwing his lance at it. He hit it and fell to the ground, stunning it. "Minami!" he called, as he summoned his lance back to his hand. "Let's do our team attack!" Okay, Minami jumped on Al's lance, and he swung it with such intensity that she was launched at the group of Heartless. She spun, holding her Keyblade out and landing numerous blows on the Heartless. She managed to destroy not only the Kappa, but the cluster as well, while the remaining Kappa was knocked towards Ed and Inuyasha. Together, they slashed it in midair with their blades and destroying it. That takes care of them. Inuyasha looked around. Is Kagome okay? Yeah, Al had Kagome in his sight. She's right here. Yup, don't worry, I'm safe. Kagome stepped out from the trees. Now, let's keep going, Inuyasha! Something stinks, Inuyasha frowned, and then suddenly aimed his sword at her. Huh? Minami's eyes went wide. Whoa! Hold on! Ed said nervously. I thought she was your friend! Inuyasha, what are you doing? Al stepped in front of Kagome protectively. You! Inuyasha bared his teeth. Get out of the way right now! Have you lost your mind? Ed yelled. I'm telling you to step aside! Inuyasha roared to Al. Minami was about to interject, but she suddenly saw Kagome's eyes shimmer a bright purple, and a small smirk spread across her lips. Ow! Suddenly, Al's helmet went flying, but Minami managed to catch it. Ed whipped his head to look back at Al. What the? Hey! Al looked back to Kagome. Why'd you do that, Kagome? Because that's not Kagome! Inuyasha growled in frustration. Suddenly, Kagome jumped into the air, sprouting a foxtail. I knew I smelled something rotten. Answer me! Where is she? Inuyasha demanded. Damn! Ed gritted his teeth. She must have gotten kidnapped while we were focused on fighting. The fox Kagome then summoned flames to rain down on them, but Minami was quick to cast Blizzard and deflect it. The deflection caused a small fog of steam, which blinded the fox. Inuyasha took the opportunity to jump up and slice it in two, leaving the two halves to fall on the ground and dissipate. Inuyasha! Sorry, I had to do it at least once. The silver-haired boy whipped around to where he heard Kagome's voice come from. Kagome! Minami and the Elric brothers looked as well to see the real Kagome being pulled into a portal by Heartless. Inuyasha ran to her aid, but then a bunch of portals appeared around them, a Kagome in each one, reaching for him and calling his name. Inuyasha! Inuyasha, help! Damn it! Inuyasha took a step back. I can't track her scent with all these fakes overpowering the air with their stench. If we choose wrong, they'll ambush us or pull us out of who knows where, Ed growled. Pull us who knows where, Ed growled. But we can't do nothing, Al cried. Minami looked desperately between all the portals, trying to find something different about at least one of them, and then she finally noticed that one of the portals seemed to be a darker hue of purple, and took it upon herself to run to it. Ed and Al gasped. Minami? Kagome reached out for Minami, and Minami reached out for her. But all the other Kagomes emerged from their portals around her and attacked at the same time. Ed was quick to clap his hands, transmuting stone walls that blocked the fake Kagome's attacks, but also blocking Minami and Inuyasha from getting to the real Kagome. What are you doing? Inuyasha snarled at Ed. Protecting Minami! Ed yelled back. No! Inuyasha leapt over the wall, reaching for Kagome's hand, but he was too late. As soon as her hand disappeared behind the portal, it disappeared entirely. The fake Kagomes all shot bursts of flame simultaneously at Inuyasha, but he lifted his sword and roared. Backlash wave! He slammed his sword down and unleashed a power greater than any he had before. Not only did he deflect the flames, but he directed them back at them, wiping them all out in one shot. When the smoke cleared, they could see him standing there, and he lifted his head to yell out in anger to the sky. Grah! Minami swallowed thickly, despite still trying to catch her breath. Inuyasha, I'm sorry. What the hell happened? Inuyasha whipped around and roared at Ed. We were supposed to keep Kagome safe! There was no way we would have seen that coming, Ed argued. Pain washed over his expression. He had to make a hard decision, one that he knew full well that Inuyasha would disagree with. Please, we did everything we could, Al pleaded. Minami was at a loss for words, and she knew that wasn't good. She could only stare at Inuyasha as he turned away from them. Damn it. I don't have time for this! Then we should go, Minami stammered. If we hurry, no, I should go, Inuyasha spat, glaring back at her. You three have done enough! Minami flinched, feeling the sting of that comment, but she took a deep breath and continued speaking. I know you're upset, and you have every right to be, but we're literally going to the same place, to fight the same guy for the same goal. She clenched her fists, her eyes narrowing as she looked down. We don't have to be friends, she raised her head to meet his eye. But we do need to work together if you want the best chance to save Kagome and the others. The sooner we go, the sooner we can do that, and then we'll be out of your hair, Minami said, trying with all of her might to keep a brave front. But deep down, she wanted to cry. Inuyasha let out a heavy sigh from his nose. He seemed to be calming down. But then, he took off, leaving them in the dust. Hey! Ed called after him. Didn't you hear what she just said? Inuyasha, wait! Al cried, but he was long gone. Minami looked down at her feet, sadly. She didn't even have the will to call after him. She couldn't blame him for leaving them. They promised to keep Kagome safe. And they failed. She already failed. Damn it, we can't waste time with that guy, Ed said, frustrated. We have bigger things to worry about. Brother, no, we need to follow him, Al looked to Ed. We gotta find out where Kagome and the others are being held. We came here to seal the keyhole, Ed argued. All of this can be undone if it's sealed. What if something we can't reverse happens to all of them before we seal the keyhole? Al asked. We can't take that risk. Ed sighed, finally calming down a little. You're right. The Elric brothers turned to look at Minami, who was still staring at the ground. We made a promise, she finally said, her voice low. She looked up and began to walk in the direction that Inuyasha ran off in. Minami. Al didn't know what to say. He could see in her expression that she was hurting. Minami slowly came to a stop. I can't fail now. I just got started, she mumbled. If I fail here, what hope do I have that I'll ever find Kai? Ed and Al glanced at each other, before sighing softly and following her. If we hurry, we might be able to catch up, Al finally said. Minami nodded, and the trio broke out into a run and continuing down the path that Inuyasha ran down. Kagome! Hi, Minami, guess what? I made a better Minami than you. I call her Manarmi. 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 Oh, Juicebox, how you doing, bud? Okay. I don't know if this song was supposed to be during that moment, but that's okay. The trio soon exited the forest, finding themselves approaching a mountain range, and the road split into 4 different paths. Great. Which way do we go now? Al whined. Minami knelt down, inspecting the ground in hope that she would find any footprints, but she had no such luck. Damn it, Ed gritted his teeth, looking around. Minami stood up, opening her mouth to say something, but she stopped. She suddenly felt a weird sensation running up the arm she was holding her keyblade with. Something like tingles under the skin. Minami looked down to her hand, not seeing anything outwardly different about it, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she somehow recognized this sensation. She realized it after a moment. This was the same sensation that she felt coursing through her body. Oh, you can see my cursor and how I read along. Hold on, I would like to change that for a second. Sorry to break everybody out of the immersion here. That is something I personally do, and I know not everyone's probably into that. Okay, you guys can't see my cursor anymore. I'm actually gonna take this second to have a sippy. There we go. She realized it after a moment. This was the same sensation that she felt coursing through her body when she sealed the keyhole in the mistress. What's up? Ed was the first to notice her staring down at her keyblade. I'm not entirely sure. Minami went to hold the keyblade with both hands, pointing it towards one of the 4 paths in front of them. The tingling sensation suddenly disappeared. Minami? Al asked. What's going on? Yeah, why are you holding the keyblade like that? Ed crossed his arms and raised a brow. Minami didn't respond, too focused on pointing the keyblade to another one of the paths. Still, she felt nothing. Or ignore me. That's fine, Ed muttered. Shh, Ed. Al hushed his brother. I think she's trying something new. Curse her, you barely know her. They watched as she pointed the keyblade to a 3rd path, and her eyes widened a little. She felt the tingling sensation come back, but only slightly. And finally, she pointed the keyblade at the last path, and she flinched when she felt the strongest sensation. She looked up to the path she was pointing to with the keyblade. This had to be the way to go. This way! She took off running before the Elric brothers could say anything, not bothering to desummon the keyblade. How do you know? Ed asked, as he and Al scrambled to run after her. The keyblade told me, Minami answered, not looking back. Sure hope that thing's good with directions, Ed said. The trio advanced further down the mountain trail, but slowed when they faced a sudden gust of wind. It seemed unnatural, only getting more intense with the further they went. What's with this wind? Minami asked, coming to a stop and shielding her eyes from the gusts with her arm. I don't know, Ed said, as he and Al stopped beside her, but I got a bad feeling. Right after he said that, the group jumped out of the way as someone was flung at them from seemingly out of nowhere. Hey! Ed barked. Watch where you're going! He stopped at the sight of who was getting up from the ground, and everyone's eyes widened. Inuyasha? Minami gasped. You again? He glared back at them. I don't have time for you right now. He quickly got in a battle-ready stance, bracing himself for his opponent to approach him. It seems my winds are too much for you, half-breed. You really are nothing without your friends. Minami's eyes widened at the sight of someone appearing before Inuyasha. It was a woman, floating on what looked like a giant feather. She was surrounded by a bunch of giant crows bearing the Heartless emblem. She didn't hesitate to charge at the woman with her keyblade, much to Inuyasha's surprise. Wait! Gra! Minami slashed at the woman, but she simply moved to the side and floated higher than she could reach. Minami then casted Thunder, in hopes to knock her and her Heartless out of the sky, but the woman waved her fan, dispersing the lightning bolts with a protective barrier of wind. So, you must be the one Naraku warns me about, she huffed. So far, I'm not impressed. But I was told not to let my guard down. Stay out of this, Minami, Inuyasha barked. This is between me and her. I faced her numerous times before you showed up, and I'm gonna be the one who takes her down. Wind Scar! Dance of the Dragons! Both Inuyasha and the woman attacked simultaneously, Inuyasha's wave of power colliding with her summoned tornadoes, tearing apart the terrain around them. Inuyasha jumped back, gripping his sword tightly, but he was panting harshly. He was getting tired. It occurred to Minami that Inuyasha had probably been fighting his way through the mountain trail and hadn't had a break. Ah, Majima! Hi! Thanks for the sub! Oh, wow, thanks! Oh my goodness. Sorry, I got, super flustered for a second. Okay. Where did I leave off? She looked up to see Crow Heartless swooping down for him. Despite him telling her to stay out of it, Minami still ran in front of Inuyasha to slash away the crows. Grr, Inuyasha gritted his teeth. Why don't you just butt out? Because, Minami slashed away another Crow Heartless. Whether you like it or not, I'm gonna help the best I can. That's what I'm here for. She then looked up to the woman on the feather and prepared to cast a spell. The woman readied an attack of her own, but then, boom! Minami looked back to see that Ed had transmuted a cannon that hit the woman dead on. Or so he thought. The smoke cleared, revealing the woman to be uninjured. She must have conjured a wind barrier to deflect the attack in the nick of time. Ed now didn't hesitate to attack once more. They clapped their hands and together transmuted a massive stone spike, but the woman managed to evade by floating even higher and swerving to the side. Meanwhile, the crows attacked Minami and Inuyasha once more, and they both used their blades to swat them away. Damn it! Inuyasha grunted in frustration. Normally I'd send Kagura packing, but these Heartless, they keep getting in the way. All I need is one shot. I've had enough! The woman Inuyasha referred to as Kagura roared, motioning her hand toward the Elric brothers. Suddenly, many Shadow Heartless appeared around Ed and Al, circling around them and creating a vortex that began to suck them up. What? Minami looked back to see this and quickly went to run over to them, but she was blocked off by Crow Heartless before she could get to them. Out of the way! She slashed them away, but more kept appearing. Before she knew it, she realized that she and Inuyasha, standing back to back now, were surrounded by the Crow Heartless that seemed to be conjuring a vortex of their own. Dance of the Dragons! Backlash Wave! Ed! Ow! There was a bright flash of light, and Minami blacked out. Chapter 11. Here we are at Chapter 12. Hey. Minami groaned softly, feeling something poking at her cheek as she slowly came to. Hey, get up! She recognized that voice. You said you have a job to do, don't you? So come on! Minami's eyes flashed open, and she sat up, feeling a rush of pain course through her skull. She groaned once more and went to hold her head. Huh? She opened her eyes and looked around, seeing that she was somewhere that was very dark. Where? We're inside the mountain caves. She recognized she recognized the voice as Inuyasha's. That last attack sent us into the mountain, and it caused a rock slide. We're stuck inside the tunnels now. Can you walk? Minami groaned again. Inuyasha? What? Her eyes widened in the darkness, looking to her side to see who she assumed was Inuyasha crouched beside her. Ed now! Where are they? I'm afraid from what I saw, they were captured, just like Kagome. It's just you and me now. No. Minami quickly went to scramble to her feet, her wobbly legs causing her to stumble backwards. No, 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 no! Hey, take it easy, will ya? Inuyasha stood, grunting as he stood up and followed after her. Minami staggered backwards until her back hit the cold stone wall with a soft thud, and she slid down until she was sitting once again, going to hold her head in her hands. Damn it. This wasn't supposed to happen? Look, now's not the time for... Inuyasha suddenly grunted, falling down to one knee beside her. Minami could hear his ragged panting in the darkness that snapped her out of her panic. Hey, what's wrong? Suddenly, the keyblade appeared in her hand with a flash of light, illuminating rocky cave walls around them before fading to darkness again. But then, the blade began to glow, giving a soft blue aura to the area. It wasn't too bright, but it was enough to where Minami could at least see Inuyasha in front of her. He was injured. He held his side, his hand covered in blood. You're hurt! Minami didn't hesitate to reach inside her pouch and pull out a potion before offering it to him. Here, drink this. It'll help. Inuyasha sniffed the bottle before he scowled. You're not serious, are you? Look, I don't need your pity. I'm just fine. Huh? Minami blinked. I can recover on my own, Inuyasha grunted. I may be a half-demon, but I can heal a lot faster than any human, that's for sure. Minami sighed heavily, popping the top off the bottle with her thumb. Just drink it, dude. Inuyasha flinched when she suddenly shoved the mouth of the bottle inside his mouth. He reluctantly drank it, afraid he'd choke on it if he didn't. Killy! Inuyasha spat out the bottle once he finished and stood upright. Man, that was nasty! The hell was that? He looked down to his wound and lifted his hand, seeing that he was no longer bleeding. In fact, he felt reinvigorated. Huh. He seemed to be impressed. Well, at least I managed to be helpful once on this wonderful excursion. Minami pulled out another potion and drank it herself. Even though I royally screwed everything else up, she thought. Just great. What now? Inuyasha looked back to Minami, or Minami, seeing her looking disgruntled. He opened his mouth to say something, but then he got a good look at her. She looked genuinely heartbroken. Inuyasha clenched his fist and took a deep breath. He couldn't believe he was about to say this. Look, he hesitated for a moment, but then gave her a hard look. I'm sorry. Minami slowly looked up to meet his eye. If I hadn't charged in like that, maybe your friends wouldn't have been captured. Earlier, he said that I'm not the only one who lost someone, even before he got separated with those other two. Minami's eyes lowered, as she seemingly gripped at the neckline of her shirt. Little did Inuyasha know, she was holding her star-shaped pendant tightly under her shirt. She finally sighed. I'm sorry, too. I haven't been totally honest with you, either. Inuyasha raised a brow, his silence allowing her to continue. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I still can't say everything, but... Minami looked down and gestured with her head towards the glowing keyblade in her hand. The truth is that this thing chose me to wield it, not the other way around. Inuyasha's eyes widened a little. In the blink of an eye, I lost my home, got this thing, and was told that I'm now some destined hero who has to save everyone and everything from the darkness. But... Minami chuckled bitterly. I'm totally blowing it. With that, she sighed and moved to sit and hug her knees, the movement of the Keyblade changing the lighting in the area slightly. Inuyasha sighed softly through his nose, going to sit beside her. I get it. So you were chosen to wield a legendary weapon too, huh? I know what that's like. Minami looked up at the half-demon boy as he looked down to gesture to his sheathed sword. The Tetsaiga here has a mind of its own. My father pretty much set it up so I'd be destined to wield it. He wanted me to use its power to protect humans and keep them safe. Inuyasha looked back to Minami. I know it's not the same, though, especially since I don't know everything, but if you want my advice, I think that just because you blew it once, or even twice, it doesn't mean you should give up. Minami stared at him for a moment, before her eyes widened as she suddenly realized. She reached into her pockets, frantically looking for something. What is it? Inuyasha asked, tilting his head as he watched her. The map! Minami pulled out the rolled paper Kaede gave to her, and opened it on the floor in between them. It shows the paths of the tunnels inside the mountain. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Inuyasha looked over the map with her. Guess we needed it after all. First, we need to figure out where we are. Minami bit the inside of her cheek as she looked over the map, her brows furrowed in concentration. Considering that these rocks are blocking off an entrance, Inuyasha gestured to a pile of rocks nearby, then that helps pinpoint where we are. And so, the half-demon and Keyblade wielder explored the immediate area, putting their heads together to discover where they were. Once they figured that out, they came up with a plan of where to go to next. Alright, I'll follow your lead, Inuyasha said. I'm gonna take a sip of water, actually. Sorry, guys. You can hear when my voice just starts to die. By the way, Inuyasha OST is great, and no one can change my mind. Okay, there we go. Alright, I'll follow your lead, Inuyasha said. Considering that this place is crawling with Heartless, we're better off watching each other's backs. Plus, I can smell and hear enemies coming better than you can. Just try not to get us lost. Yeah. Minami turned to walk, but then stopped. Hey, she turned back to look at him. What is it? I just wanted to say thanks. You know, for the pep talk? Minami offered a small smile that made Inuyasha frown and turn his head. Don't think too much of it, he muttered. I just couldn't stand sitting there watching you feel sorry for yourself, that's all. Minami could only smile sheepishly and rubbed the back of her neck. Inuyasha was a little harsh, but he was fair. Now let's go already, Inuyasha barked. We can't waste any more time. Minami hummed and gave him Minami hummed and gave him a nod before turning to walk away again. Thanks to Inuyasha, she had newfound confidence, and her mind was clear. Minami and Inuyasha walked through the maze-like tunnels of the cave, thankful that they had a map, as well as Minami's glowing keyblade, to lead them the right way. Suddenly, Inuyasha came to a stop, his ears twitching. He quickly reached for the handle of his sword. Be on your guard. They're closing in! Minami braced herself as a cluster Heartless appeared before them, 3 Shadow Heartless accompanying it. Inuyasha went to draw his sword, but his giant blade extended and hit the low ceiling above them with a loud ping! Damn! Inuyasha immediately resheathed the sword. I can't use my Tetsaiga like this! There's not enough room to swing it around! He then went to crack his knuckles. Well, gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Lucky for Minami, she summoned her smaller Keyblade and didn't face the same problem. She had to be careful, but she could still swing the Keyblade. Let's do this! She pointed her Keyblade at the group of Heartless and casted Blizzard, intending to hit them all while they were together. Inuyasha took the opportunity to lunge forward, punching one Shadow Heartless in the face before clawing at another. The third tried slamming into Inuyasha's stomach, but he moved out of the way and slashed at its back. Meanwhile, the Cluster Heartless extended a bunch of tentacles from its body to reach for Minami. She quickly threw her Keyblade to hit it in the head before it grabbed hold of her, knocking it down and stunning it. Yeah! She charged, slashing it multiple times and knocking off a bunch of insects, but it recovered and used its tentacles to bite her and whip her away. Oof! Minami fell on her back, but she was quick to get up, seeing that Inuyasha stood in front of her. I got this one, he told her, looking over his shoulder at her. You handle the small fry. Okay. As Inuyasha rushed to the Cluster Heartless, Minami casted thunder on the Shadow Heartless that surrounded her, taking one out immediately. Inuyasha plunged his claws into the exposed core of the Cluster Heartless, earning bites from its serpent hands. Gah! Inuyasha toughed it out, slashing inside the Cluster Heartless as much as he could. Minami looked over and saw Inuyasha getting bitten, the tendrils even entangling him. Let go! Inuyasha used his free hand to punch the cluster over and over again, wearing it down. While Minami was distracted, one of the Shadow Heartless slashed its claws along her back. Gah! She swung her Keyblade and slashed at him too. She then pointed the Keyblade at the remaining Shadow Heartless and shot a fireball. Meanwhile, Inuyasha wailed on the Cluster Heartless until he finally managed to rip it in two. After destroying it, he looked over and saw Minami destroy the last Shadow Heartless. Both of them took a moment to catch their breath. Hey, do yourself a favor and try to focus, will ya? Inuyasha looked over to Minami. I saw what happened back there. You gotta take care of yourself first before you worry about others. Otherwise you won't help anyone at all. Huh? Minami raised a brow. You're lecturing me for worrying about you? She asked incredulously. Yeah. What? Wrong song! There we go. You're lecturing me for worrying about you? She asked incredulously. Yeah. You got yourself hurt because of it, Inuyasha snapped back. I do this kind of thing every day, so I'll be fine. You're the one who lacks experience. Minami frowned at him, but she took a deep breath and looked down to her feet. I guess it's a force of habit, she mumbled, thinking of Kai. When they were little, she would always be the one who would stand in between Kai and a bully, telling them to go away and leave him alone. Sometimes the bullies would retaliate and it would result in a fight, but it was always something Minami worried about when the time came. Well, it's a habit you're gonna have to break out of, Inuyasha began walking. Last thing I need to tell your friends is that something happened to you just because you were trying to save me. Minami followed him, but her frown grew deeper. Why do you say grow out of like it's something childish? Well, it is, Inuyasha shrugged. I get that you want to protect and help people as much as possible, but if you let your guard down every time someone you knew was in trouble, you'll be killed. Minami flinched and swallowed thickly at that harsh fact. Yeah, but... She slowed to a stop inside, Inuyasha stopping with her. I don't feel right putting myself above others like that. She still couldn't get Ed's words out of her mind. All we can do is just guard Minami with our lives. But Inuyasha was right. It was no better the other way around either. I understand what you're saying, Minami shook her head. I need to be more careful and watch my own back, but I just can't ignore someone else either. Especially a friend. Inuyasha raised a brow. Minami blinked, and then let out a nervous chuckle. Too soon? The way he was looking at her told her that he definitely didn't consider her a friend. Worth a shot? She sighed and put her hand on her hip. The point is, I think it's something that can be balanced. Sort of kind of trusting someone enough to watch your back while you watch theirs thing, you know? Yeah, Inuyasha turned his head. I'm just saying, you'll never know when you'll be all you got. Suddenly, 4 Shadow Heartless appeared around them. 1 Cluster Heartless, accompanying them. Inuyasha reached to a wound of his to stain stain his claws with his own blood. Blades of blood! He threw a bunch of crimson blades across the area, doing damage to all the Heartless and forcing them to spread out. Minami looked up to see multiple stalactites hanging above them, which gave her an idea. Minami threw her Keyblade like a boomerang at the stalactites above. They broke off as she anticipated, and 4 of them fell down. While 1 missed the Heartless, the others hit their targets, the Cluster Heartless, as well as the 2 Shadow Heartless. One of the shadows was impaled on contact and instantly destroyed. Huh, not bad, Inuyasha nodded in approval before lunging at the 3 Shadow Heartless, shredding through them with his claws. Minami looked up to see the Cluster Heartless rise from the floor and cast a blizzard at it. Inuyasha was quick to take out the Shadow Heartless, and then turned to Minami and the Cluster Heartless. Alright, now that we got the annoying ones out of the way... But before he could assist her, 3 Centipede Heartless suddenly manifested around him. You've gotta be kidding me! 1 centipede bit its own tail and rolled it at him like a wheel, and he jumped out of the way before slashing it in 2 with his claws. Minami was too busy dealing with the Cluster Heartless that had recovered after her blizzard attack to notice that 1 of the Centipede Heartless was rolling towards her, and it knocked her onto her side. Yeah! She fell down, raising her Keyblade to block the pincers that were about to clamp down on her. Minami! Inuyasha called, turning to run over and assist her. but he stopped once he noticed that the Cluster Heartless was doing something weird. It looked like it was using its snake and serpent heads to coil around its own body. Inuyasha attempted to slash it, but his claws bounced right off, causing him to stagger backwards. It took a moment for Inuyasha to realize, but damn it, it's patting itself! He looked back to Minami, who had since gotten up and blasted the centipede with a fireball and killing it. She then turned her attention to the last centipede Heartless and slashed it in two. She ran over to join Inuyasha as they both looked to see the Cluster Heartless, who was releasing its coil around itself. Guess it can only guard itself for so long. Inuyasha looked to Minami, noticing that she looked hurt. You okay? Yeah. Minami got into a battle stance, ignoring her legs that were starting to shake. Good. Inuyasha knew that this needed to end soon. I'll distract it while you knock down another one of those spikes. Right. Minami nodded, getting in a battle-ready stance. Hey! Ugly! Inuyasha yelled to the Heartless, running towards it before swerving to the side and getting it to follow him. Minami once again threw her Keyblade like a boomerang, knocking down another stalactite to impale the Cluster Heartless and reveal its core. While it was exposed, she cast a blizzard in order to freeze it, allowing Inuyasha to attack the weak spot relentlessly. He ran over and shoved his hand inside to slash the inside with his claws, and finally destroying it. Minami hunched over, panting... I super lost my spot. Okay. Minami hunched over, panting harshly while Inuyasha flicked his wrist and then looked over to her. You're starting to get tuckered out, he pointed. No! Minami immediately straightened up, trying to play it off that she was better than she actually was. I'm fine. Yeah, right, Inuyasha scoffed. I know you're just a human, but I doubt you do this kind of thing for long. Give me that map. Before Minami could respond, Inuyasha yanked the map that Minami had sticking out of her pocket and looked over it for a moment. He knew it. He tucked the map in his breast pocket. Come on, get on my back. Huh? Minami blinked, watching as Inuyasha knelt down on one knee, looking back at her expectantly. No, that's okay, she squeaked. I can walk! Look! Minami extended her arm and twirled her Keyblade in her hand. I'm feeling better already. Just needed a bonk! She went to hold the Keyblade over her shoulder and hit the side of her head instead. Thankfully, she hit herself with the blunt side of the sword and not the alternative. Still, it hurt. Ow! She whined as she hunched over and she held the sore spot on her head. Ow, ow, ow! Inuyasha sighed heavily. I'm not gonna have you falling behind. He then went to grab her and hoist her up on his back. Wait, this isn't... Just shut up and hold on! Inuyasha started to take off running, and Minami was quick to grip his shoulder with her free hand so that she didn't fall off his back. After running for a bit, Inuyasha slowed to a walk as they entered a much larger area than they had been in. Minami looked over to see a big pool of... water? It was almost as if they had walked into a hidden underground spring. With a grunt, Inuyasha went to pull Minami off his back by the back of her belt, and then reached to hold her over the water and drop her in. Splash! Gah! Minami emerged from the water, coughing as Inuyasha squatted down to meet her at eye level. Hey! Minami barked. Think you could have not dropped me in like that? Feel better? Inuyasha asked instead. Now that she thought about it. Yeah. Her eyes widened in surprise. She looked down at herself before looking all around. What is this place? Kaede did say miners were in these caves before they got chased out by the Heartless, Inuyasha explained. I heard that some mountain caves have springs, and the miners would use it whenever they got tired or sore, so they could get back to work faster. Minami opened her mouth to reply, but she heard something behind her. They both looked out to see something emerging out of the water. What? Minami got nervous, gripping the Keyblade tightly in her hand. Whatever it was big. It suddenly splashed into the two of them, dousing them in water. Minami wiped the water out of her face. Excuse me. And looked up at the creature in front of them. Was it a Heartless? No. It looked like a big pink balloon? I am the master of these springs! Leave now, or endure my wrath! The voice stopped as the balloon looked down at the two of them with its big eyes. Inuyasha growled, his eyebrow twitching in annoyance. He suddenly shook himself as a dog would, shedding his water droplets everywhere, including on Minami. Oh, come on! Minami whined, weakly attempting to shield herself by holding her free hand up before wiping at her face again. Fancy seeing you here, shippo! Inuyasha muttered. Huh? Minami blinked, turning to look back at the pink balloon. Who now? The pink balloon suddenly poofed into a small cloud of smoke, revealing a small child. He had little fox feet and a fox tail, wearing a little kimono and a greenish ribbon in his hair. Minami's eyes widened in surprise. "Inuyasha!" the fox boy cried. "Wait, how do I know it's the real you? And who's that girl? Don't tell me you're two-timing Kagome with her!" "What?" Minami squeaked. Inuyasha reached for the boy so that he could hold him down and punch him over the head a couple times. "Ow! Ow! Ow! What was that for?" 1, for splashing me. 2, for making assumptions. And 3, I just had to be sure, Inuyasha muttered, letting the boy out of his grip. "Well, at least I know it's the real you." The one known as Shippo looked up to Minami. "Still, who's this? Is she someone from Kagome's time?" He started to feel uncomfortable at the way she was looking at him. She had a goofy smile, as if she were admiring him. "He's so cute!" "Not exactly," Inuyasha answered awkwardly. "She's Minami." The fox boy blinked at Minami, but made an attempt to introduce himself anyway. "I'm Shippo!" "Long story short, she's here to help us out with these weird creatures that have been spawning lately," Inuyasha said, since Minami seemed to be rendered speechless. "So tell me, how did you escape? Didn't you get captured with the others?" "We did!" Shippo looked back to Inuyasha. "But Moroku and Sango were able to fight back long enough for me and Kilala to escape, so we could go find you and Kagome. But we got chased down by Kagura and those things, and we had to hide here." "So Sango and Moroku are okay." Inuyasha seemed relieved. "What about Kagome?" "Huh?" Shippo blinked. "Kagome wasn't there when I escaped." "Wait, don't tell me you lost her! Did you think you could just replace her with another girl?" Inuyasha shut him up by knocking him over the head once more. Minami finally spoke up. "You said you escaped with someone?" "Yeah. Where's Kilala?" Inuyasha added. "I don't know," Shippo cried. "We got separated and then I got lost. I tried to plant spores to leave a trail, but those creatures kept plucking them out of the ground and chased me around. I found this spring so I could hide." "You poor thing," Minami cooed. Inuyasha crossed his arms and rolled his eyes at Minami, who was being disgustingly sympathetic toward Shippo. "I'm gonna be sick." "Well, what do we do now?" Shippo asked. "We find Kilala, find the others, and seal up the Heartless," Inuyasha answered. "Heartless?" Shippo tilted his head. "Oh, so is that what those scary creatures are called?" "Yeah, that's what she's here to help us with." Inuyasha pointed his clawed thumb to Minami. "By the way, did you see a guy in armor or a shrimp yokai when you came here?" Minami's eyes widened when Inuyasha asked that. "That's right. Maybe Shippo knew where Ed and Al were." She looked back to Shippo, smiling hopefully. No, can't say that I did." Shippo shook his head, and Minami's smile faded. "Great," Inuyasha sighed. "And if Kilala is in these tunnels, who knows where she could be?" "Why don't you try making lots of noise?" Shippo suggested. "Maybe she'll hear you." "And risk alerting all the Heartless?" Inuyasha asked incredulously. "Well, what do you suggest?" Shippo frowned. Inuyasha opened his mouth to answer, but was interrupted by the cave suddenly rumbling. The water around Minami rippled, as some rocks fell down from the high ceiling above them. "What was that?" Minami asked, going to crawl out of the water now. "Sounds like something is happening nearby." Inuyasha looked back to the entrance they came in through. "Well, what are we waiting for?" Minami asked. "Let's check it out." And that's the end of chapter 12. I feel like I'm reading this super fast. How long have I been streaming, guys? Wow, 52 minutes? Nope, time is just flying. Okay, sounds good. I am gonna take my sips of water, though. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Excuse me. Yeah, I didn't expect to get through 2 chapters this quickly. I think I'm reading a little fast. I'll try to slow down for this last chapter. Maybe I can stretch it to an hour-and-a-half stream. My voice definitely feels it. Okay. Next chapter time! Chapter 13. Minami, Inuyasha, and Shippo ran through the cave tunnels, led by the rumbling sounds that only got louder as they got nearer. They ran through an opening, stopping to find themselves in a larger area where there was a battle ensuing. Minami couldn't see who was fighting the Heartless at first, but then she heard familiar voices. "Alphonse, now! Right, brother!" They then saw a bunch of spikes emerge from the ground, taking out a few Shadow Heartless, while a lance was thrown and impaled a cluster Heartless. "Ed! Al!" The Elric brothers whipped around at the voice that called for them and saw Minami throwing her keyblade like a boomerang at the Heartless, creating an opening so that she and Inuyasha could join them. Minami! You're okay! She beamed at them. The relief almost brought her to tears, almost brought tears to her eyes, but no time for touching reunions. Inuyasha had the room to pull out his Tessaiga, and he did so. He and Minami stood back to back with the Elric brothers while Shippo went to hide. There were 3 cluster Heartless surrounding them on the battlefield. Adamant Barrage! Inuyasha swung his sword and shot crystal shards at the 3 cluster Heartless, enough though that 2 of them wrapped themselves in their living tentacle appendages and solidified, deflecting the shards. Al followed up by swinging his lance like a baseball bat, knocking 1 cluster Heartless into another. Ed slashed at the 3rd cluster with the 3rd cluster. I can't talk! Ed slashed at the 3rd cluster! Did it with his automail blade, cutting through the tentacles it used to try to counterattack. Minami looked over to see the cluster Heartless grouped together. She threw her keyblade like a boomerang once again to separate them, but they quickly regrouped and continued their attack. She looked up to see more stalactites, and she casted thunder in order to knock them down. 2 of the 3 clusters were hit by the falling rocks, and they were both pinned to the ground. Nice! Whoa! Minami jumped when she noticed the 3rd cluster Heartless about to attack her, but suddenly, Blizzard! Minami felt an icy gust and looked over to see that Ed had casted ice magic to freeze the cluster Heartless that was about to attack her. Need a hand? Inuyasha jumped in next to Minami, and they both double-teamed on the frozen Heartless, slashing it until its core was exposed, leaving itself open for both of them to stab their swords into its core and destroy it. Thank you, Majima! I'm glad you're having a good time. One more! Ed called, and everyone looked to the remaining cluster Heartless that was recovering from a stalactite and rising once more. But before anyone could attack it, they noticed that it was shedding. Ew. Minami's face twisted in disgust. Watch it! Ed shoved her aside, or Inuyasha shoved her aside, my bad, stomping down on the insects that the Heartless had shed that were coming to attack Minami's feet. The Heartless's core was more exposed than ever, but with all these insects constantly attacking, the group found that they couldn't get anywhere near it. Minami and Ed both tried casting fire, but found that the insects were replenishing faster than they were taking them out. The group backed up until they were as close as they could get, their backs all touching as the insects surrounded them. Minami! Al called, reaching his hand for her. Just as Minami took his hand, Al threw her up in the air. The insects swarmed up Ed, Al, and Inuyasha's legs. Minami understood when she got the above perspective of the Heartless. She had to take out the cluster Heartless now, or they were screwed. Ha! Minami thrusted the keyblade downward as she fell, plunging it into the cluster Heartless's core. Boom! The Heartless exploded and dissipated, making the insects that had completely overtaken Inuyasha and the Elric brothers dissipate as well, thankfully before they could do too much damage. You guys okay? Minami asked breathlessly. Yeah, Ed answered, patting himself off. Thanks to you, Minami, Al said, a smile in his tone. Minami suddenly lunged forward, pulling the Elric brothers into a tight hug. Ugh! Ed grunted uncomfortably. I'm gonna put on a different song for this moment, thanks. Whoa! Good to see y'all alright too, Al chuckled. Meanwhile, Inuyasha it doesn't feel like I've been streaming for long, but my voice and my mouth are like, yeah, Minami, you've been doing this for a while. Let me short circuit here for a hot minute. It's a sippy time. Okay. Meanwhile, Inuyasha sheathed his sword as he took a whiff to confirm that these two were really Minami's friends, but his eyes narrowed at the fact that he smelled something else. Is it safe to come out now? A familiar voice broke Inuyasha from his thoughts, and he nodded. Ah, thank you for the head pats, and I will have a hydrate, thank you. Is the cup lined up with my face? Is my hotkey even working? Excellent! I'm drinking water, you just can't see. Oh my gosh, Alice, hi! Welcome! Welcome to my reading stream. I'm reading my Kingdom Hearts anime fanfiction. Get yourself a little comfy, cozy blanket and some snacks and a drink and just make yourself at home. I'm gonna read to you. Is it safe to come out now? A familiar voice broke Inuyasha from his thoughts and he nodded. Yeah, these guys are with Minami. Who's that? Ed blinked, looking for a source of the voice. From behind Inuyasha emerged the small fox demon Shippo. This is Shippo, a friend of Inuyasha's, Minami introduced him. Nice to meet ya! I smell something else, Inuyasha frowned. I think Kilala's nearby. Really? Shippo asked, looking around excitedly. But I don't see her. Kilala? Al asked. Oh, are you talking about this? Everyone looked over as Al opened his chest plate, revealing what looked like a cat, but with 2 tails. Minami held her own cheeks as her eyes sparkled at the sight of the creature. Shippo noticed immediately that she had that same goofy smile that she did when she first met her. So cute! Minami could only let out a tiny squeal as she was absolutely fawning over the cuteness that was Kilala as Ed approached Al's armor. I almost forgot. Ed approached Al's armor and clapped his hands. A green bubble appeared, which he used to heal the 2-tailed demon. With a chirp, Kilala jumped out of Al's armor and into Shippo's arms. Kilala! Shippo hugged her tightly. Thank goodness you're safe! I thought you were lost, or worse! Wait a sec, Inuyasha looked to the Elric brothers. Didn't you two get captured? Well, Ed crossed his arms. We did and we didn't. You see, Al started. Dance of the Dragons! Backlash Wave! What Minami didn't see when everything went white was that Inuyasha's attack had actually cancelled out Kagura's attack. Not only that, but it also freed Ed and Al. While Inuyasha and Minami were nowhere to be found, she saw the Elric brothers. Seize them! She ordered her crow Heartless, but their bodies shattered once the crows grabbed them up in their giant talons. It was at this moment that they realized that these weren't the real Elric brothers, but dummies made out of the earth that they had transmuted before escaping. Kagura took to the skies to look for the Elric brothers, but they had skillfully evaded her and made their way to the caves. We remembered what that village priestess said about the mountain and the mines, Al explained. We saw the resulting damage and figured you'd likely be inside. But we had the map, Inuyasha raised a brow. How did you... We memorized it, Ed and Al answered in unison. The half-demon was rendered speechless for a moment. How? Well, to be exact, we remembered the important tunnels, Ed clarified. We also made our own cave marker so that we wouldn't get lost, Al added. And then we found Kilala, tired after fighting all those Heartless on her own, so we came to her aid. Wow, Minami blinked, just as impressed as Inuyasha was. So, what now? But suddenly, Kilala jumped into Minami's arms, letting out a small meow. Minami's eyes lit up like Christmas lights. I've been blessed. Al and I know the way out, but there's a problem, Ed went back on topic, looking over to Inuyasha. That wind girl is obviously looking for us. So if we're going to fight this Naraku guy and save your friends, we're gonna have to think of a strategy. A strategy, huh? Inuyasha thought for a moment. Heh, I think I got an idea. It's not to rush head first into battle and cause trouble for all of us, is it? Ed asked. Of course not, Inuyasha barked. Do I look like I'm stupid enough to do the same thing again? Ed said nothing, but the smug look on his face was enough. I don't like you, you know that? Inuyasha shot him a glare. Shippo, get over here. We're gonna need your help. Kagura was floating above the mountain range on her flying feather, assisted by the crow Heartless in patrolling the mountainside. Whoop! Wrong song, excuse me. Here we go. Kagura was floating above the mountain range on her flying feather, assisted by the crow Heartless in patrolling the mountainside. The crows informed her that something came out of one of the cave's openings, and she flew over to see for herself. She frowned at the sight of Inuyasha running on the mountain trail, carrying the Keyblade wielder. Oh! Hi, Zelius, welcome! Get them! She yelled, waving down the crow Heartless to go after him before following. How careless of you, she shook her head. You won't get away again. Dance of Blades! As her attack sliced off large chunks of rock from the mountain that rolled down like boulders, the crow Heartless began to swoop in on Inuyasha and Minami. Somehow, Inuyasha dodged the boulders, while Minami smacked away the crow Heartless with her Keyblade. Kagura gritted her teeth and readied another attack, but was suddenly struck by multiple lightning bolts. What? Kagura looked around to find where that spell came from, to see someone riding in on the 2-tailed demon that belonged to the Demon Slayer. But it wasn't the Demon Slayer. It was Minami. Impossible! How did she... Kagura's eyes narrowed when she realized the truth. Damn that fox, she hissed. Heartless! Attack! But before they could, the crow Heartless were impaled from the flying stone spikes coming from below. Kagura looked down to find the source of the spikes, seeing that the Elric brothers had made a giant cannon. They shot it once more, landing a direct hit on her, and blowing her out of the sky. Just as Kagura was about to land flat on the ground, she managed to summon a small wind barrier that cushioned her fall. After a moment of writhing on the ground, she looked up to see that Inuyasha, the Elric brothers, and Minami had gathered around her. Of course, the Minami that was with them looked like the real one, the only difference being that she had a fox tail. She suddenly poofed back to being Shippo's original form. Whew! That was a close one! Good to know that I can make a believable replica of the Keyblade, Ed rubbed his nose, smiling in satisfaction with himself. Kilala descended down to the ground with the real Minami, and she climbed off of her to join the others in approaching Kagura. Give up, Kagura! Inuyasha gritted his teeth. If you know what's good for you, you'll take us to Naraku or else! Suddenly, Kagura began to chuckle darkly. Minami pointed the Keyblade at her, ready to attack. Do you really think you have me right where you want? Kagura looked up at her. Fools. Dance of the Dead! Suddenly, a bunch more Crow Heartless appeared above Kagura, but the group was more shocked to find a bunch of skeletons, sporting old and damaged samurai armor, starting to emerge from underground. Minami's eyes widened at the sight of what she could see as zombies, heartless hybrids radiating a strong darkness. These Heartless are fascinating creatures, Kagura said. If I can learn more about them, I'd be able to live without a heart of my own and finally be free. What? Minami's eyes widened. No, you don't want that, Al protested. Kilala, take care of the Heartless in the air, Inuyasha said. Shippo, you keep out of the way. You don't have to tell me twice. Everyone looked behind them to see that Shippo was already hiding behind behind the rock. Destroying all of you will be the first step I take to getting what I want, Kagura snarled. Attack! Before they could, Minami threw her Keyblade like a boomerang, aimed to hit as many of the skeleton and Crow Heartless as possible. She managed to hit and stun the crows, while most of the skeleton Heartless were smashed to bits. Doesn't look like they're very durable, Ed commented, going to clap his hands to cast thunder on the skeleton Heartless, but they were unaffected. What? He gasped, as the skeleton Heartless jumped at him, but luckily, Al got in between them. Night Shield! He opened his Night Shield! He opened his arms as the skeleton Heartless wailed on him, but he didn't seem to be affected. Was this a special power that Al was utilizing? He then unleashed a burst of energy that knocked the skeleton Heartless off of him. Thanks, Al! Ed thanked his brother, who remained kneeling but gave him a nod in return. Everyone understood that he needed to cool down after that attack before moving again. I'm gonna clear a path! Get ready! Wind Scar! Inuyasha stepped in front of Al and slammed his sword down to the ground, releasing a wave that mowed down a whole row of skeleton Heartless. It didn't take long for more to start emerging from the ground, and Minami realized that she had to take this opportunity to charge for Kagura to deal some damage. Dance of Blades! Kagura had noticed the opening and waved her fan to send a barrage of wind blades at Minami to slow her down. As she raised the Keyblade as she charged and slashed aside the wind blades relatively easily. What? Ha! Minami jumped in the air, coming down on her with a slash combo with the Keyblade, casting fire to finish the combo. Gah! Kagura groaned out in pain, and then growled in anger. Annoying child. I never thought I'd meet anyone as insufferable as that loathsome dog demon's friends. She suddenly created a burst of wind that blew Minami backwards. Luckily, Al was within range and managed to catch her. I gotcha! Whew! Thanks, Al. As Al gently set her down, Ed approached them. Al, I got an idea! You with me? Yeah! Minami watched as Ed and Al clapped their hands and touched the ground. Their combined power of alchemy summoned a series of stone spikes that smashed a bunch of the skeleton Heartless to bits. Kagura was even almost hit, but she managed to take to the sky on her feather. Damn! Inuyasha cursed, noticing that the body of a decapitated Crow Heartless had just fallen down nearby, and looked up to the sky to see that Kilala was fending off the Crow Heartless from above. Kilala! Down here! As the two-tailed demon descended, more skeleton Heartless began emerging from the ground. Minami! You're gonna have to take Kilala and fight Kagura! Inuyasha looked to Minami. What about you? Minami asked, as Kilala landed on the ground beside her. Don't worry, we'll join you when we get a chance, Ed assured her, slashing the head off a skeleton Heartless. We'll hold off Kagura's forces down here. You go, Al added. Okay. Minami ignored her hesitation and jumped on Kilala's back. They took off into the sky, Minami almost losing her balance. Whoa! She looked down for a moment to see the battle taking place under her, then looked up to see Kagura nearby, flying on her feather. Gotcha, take a sticky. More Crow Heartless surrounded her, and swooped in to attack Kilala in hopes to knock Minami off. Kilala managed to keep them at bay with fiery slashes, but Kagura had also sent wind blades at them. While Kilala was hit by a few, Minami managed to deflect most of them away with her Keyblade. Just as Kilala prepared a fireball in her mouth, Minami took aim with her Keyblade. They both shot fireballs at the same time, both combining into one big fireball that wiped out all of the Crow Heartless upon impact. Kagura summoned a wind barrier to protect herself, barely managing to deflect the fireball. "What were you hoping to accomplish with that?" she yelled. "My winds can blow out any flames you create and deflect all of your magic." But Minami could only smile. Kagura had done exactly what she wanted her to. Since Kagura had focused all of her strength to deflect that fireball, she was no longer spawning any more skeleton Heartless down below, giving Inuyasha and the Elric brothers ample time to finish off the enemies. Oh no! Professor! Naraku is very similar to Xehanort, isn't he? I don't want to think about it. Where am I? What's happening? Ed now then transmuted a series of platforms for Inuyasha to jump on to ascend higher and higher. With a huge leap, Inuyasha brought down a red Tetsaiga onto Kagura's barrier and bursted it open like an eggshell. "What? No!" Kagura cried, as the attack even damaged the giant feather she sat on, sending her spinning towards the ground. Ed transmuted a cannon to shoot at her, managing to hit her in the air, but Kagura regained her balance to narrowly avoid Ao's lance being thrown at her. But she didn't see Minami coming. Minami leapt off Kilala's back and brought down the Keyblade onto her, knocking her off her feather and sending her down to the ground with a loud crash. "Is it over?" Ed panted. Excuse me. Is it over? That's a great question. "Is it over?" Ed panted, being joined by Ao while Kilala grabbed Minami and Inuyasha out of the sky to bring them down. "Over?" Kagura slowly pushed herself to sit up. Her kimono was torn up and she panted short, ragged breaths. "Don't insult me! These Heartless, they've made me more powerful than before. And soon I'll live off as one of them and choose my own destiny!" "For the last time, you don't want that," Al argued. "Please, we don't have to fight anymore." "You have no idea what a Heartless is, do you?" Ed shook his head. "That kind of power is not worth it." "Makes no difference," Inuyasha spat, after Kilala landed and he and Minami safely stepped onto the ground. Naraku and his incarnations, none of them have hearts to begin with. Suddenly, a wall of whirling wind surrounded the group, only getting more intense as debris scattered about. "I won't die here," Kagura gritted her teeth. "Not in a prison of my own wind! Not as long as he has my heart!" Minami's eyes widened a little. She couldn't help but feel bad. "I will live freely, even if I have to leave my heart behind." "Dance of the Dead!" Kagura summoned Skeleton Heartless once again, more now than there were before. "I think I changed the song too early. We're gonna go back." "What?" Ed now gasped as Kagura once again ascended into the sky, now on the back of a Crow Heartless. Among the Skeleton Heartless were a bunch of tornadoes, swirling sharp debris and bones within them. "Fine. She's not gonna listen," Inuyasha sighed. "It's time to end this," Ed said. "Right!" Al readied his lance. Minami couldn't help but hesitate. She couldn't stop thinking about what Kagura said. Was it possible that she didn't want to fight either? Minami shook away her thoughts and raised her Keyblade to cast Thunder, hoping to take out as many skeletons as possible. This time, it seemed like they were more durable, and way less destroyed this time than before. Ed followed up by trying to transmute stone spikes, but found himself sucked into a tornado and being cut up with the sharp debris inside. "Gah! Brother!" Al called for him, using his last remaining potion in hopes to provide help for his brother, but was also swarmed with Skeleton Heartless right after. "Guys!" Minami called after them, but was unable to come to their aid due to being swamped by her own horde of Skeleton Heartless herself. "Minami!" Inuyasha was getting attacked by Skeleton Heartless from all directions, but was slashing his way through to get to the Keyblade wielder. "Inuyasha! Let's end this! Initiate team move!" Minami and Inuyasha jumped into the air, aiming their weapons at the horde of Skeleton Heartless. Minami casted Blizzard, shooting several ice shards that stabbed and froze the enemies, rendering them unable to evade Inuyasha's follow-up attack with the Adamant Barrage. The two landed on the ground, standing back to back as they both readied their attacks. Attacked their enemies rapidly, striking their weapons so swiftly that it generated blades of wind that traveled even further to damage the enemies that were further away. "Together!" Inuyasha yelled out, as both he and Minami raised their swords. As Inuyasha's blade began to glow, so did the Keyblade, as if its magic were instinctively reacting to the Tetsaiga's will. "Wind Scar!" Both Inuyasha and Minami slammed down their weapons at the same time, generating a powerful blast that spiraled around the two of them. Any remaining enemies, including Kagura, were sucked into the attack. "Yeah!" Whoosh! The smoke from the blast finally dispersed, and all that remained was Kagura. defeated, bloody, and bruised on the ground. "Stay away from me!" she yelled. Her voice even sounded weak. "Dance of..." Minami's eyes saddened at the sight of Kagura, as she couldn't even muster the energy to sit upright. "Alright," Inuyasha stepped in front of Minami towards Kagura. "Time to end you once and for all, Kagura!" Before Minami could interject, Ed spoke up first. "Hold on, you're not seriously going to kill her, are you? She can't even fight back," Al added. "Are you serious?" Inuyasha glared back at them. "Do you have any idea how many times she's come after my life? After the life of my friends? She was born from Naraku, and just like him, she's rotten to the core. My goal has been to finish off Naraku for good once and for all, and taking down his incarnations is the first step." While the three boys argued, Kagura murmured something under her breath that only Minami heard. "I just wanted to be free. Free from Naraku. Even at the cost of my own heart. Maybe I'll get it in the next life." Minami's eyes narrowed, and she silently passed Inuyasha and the Elric brothers to approach Kagura. Inuyasha was the first to notice. Ned now stopped to follow his gaze as well. "Hey, what are you doing?" Minami didn't answer Inuyasha as she stopped in front of Kagura. She desummoned her Keyblade, then went to squat down in front of her so that she could be at eye level with her. "Minami, get away!" Ed yelled. "She could still be dangerous," Al added. "They're right, you know," Kagura said, glaring up to Minami. "What makes you think I won't attack you right now when you're vulnerable?" Minami shrugged a little. "I just have a feeling, that's all." "A feeling?" Kagura shook her head. "How pathetic. To be looked down by someone who doesn't understand a thing." "You're right. I don't understand," Minami nodded. "But I believe that whatever's broken can be fixed." Kagura's eyes widened a little, genuinely shocked to see her enemy offering her mercy and a smile. "Listen, you can still turn this around," Minami said. "It's clear that this way of going about it isn't working, so what do you have to lose by trying another way? I, for one, don't think you should have to sacrifice your heart or your life for your freedom." "Naraku created me strictly to serve him, and nothing more," Kagura shook her head. "This is why I wish to become one of these creatures. If I can live without a heart, he cannot control me anymore." "Or," Minami tilted her head to the side, "if we defeat Naraku, you'll have a heart, and you won't have anyone in control of you anymore. Right?" Kagura turned her head, avoiding Minami's eyes. She had no desire to hold on to that false hope. She knew how Naraku operated. "The half-breed's friends are still alive," she finally said, not looking at her. "What?" Inuyasha's eyes went wide. "Where are they?" "On top of this mountain is a shrine that Naraku turned into his own fortress," Kagura explained. "Your friends have been thrown into the darkness and are going through a process of having their hearts removed. Their strong wills and spiritual powers have allowed them to last this long, but even then..." Inuyasha's eyes narrowed. "Give me one good reason why I should believe you." "I have none." Kagura closed her eyes. "You can choose to believe me or not." "Damn you!" Inuyasha gritted his teeth. "Seems legit to me," Ed spoke up. "Even if it's a trap we're walking into, at the end of the day, we're still going to wherever this Naraku guy resides anyway, right?" I'll take a sip of water. I take a sippy! Okay. Yup, Minami nodded to him, then looked back to Kagura. "I just have one more question." Kagura didn't say anything, but once again looked up to meet her eyes. Minami's eyes trembled softly as she opened her mouth to ask, "Was there another person with them? Someone you didn't recognize?" Suddenly, a blast of wind radiated from Kagura, blowing Minami backwards. "Minami!" The Elric brothers called out as Minami landed on her bottom. "I'm fine." Minami looked up to see that Kagura had used the last of her magic to summon another giant feather, which she climbed upon and floated away into the sky. "Damn. She got away," Inuyasha growled. "Whoop. Considering how she left in a huff there, how much you want to bet she knows something but isn't telling us?" Ed crossed his arms. "That means there's a chance that Kai could be here," Al thought aloud. Both Ed and Al looked over to Minami, who didn't say a word as she stood up and brushed herself off. Inuyasha couldn't help but sigh in frustration as he sheathed his sword. "This mercy of yours better not cost us later, Minami." Minami once again said nothing, as she stared up at the sky where Kagura had disappeared. Finally, she sighed and turned to face them and force a smile. "I guess we'll see." And that was chapter 13, and just like that, I read through it all already. What do you guys think of this picture? I drew it myself. It actually came from like I attempted, okay, I'm gonna put on a different song that doesn't have, like, kind of a something. Actually, you know what? Because it's probably bad enough that I was playing copyrighted content. Here, I'll play my own song. Yes, it did go by fast. It was only an hour and 19 minutes. I think this was my fastest read-through yet. So, I think from here going forward, because I think I might have, I don't know for sure, but I might have read, I might have had 2 reading streams this month. I'm gonna go back to my initial schedule of doing it once a month. But in addition to that, I had Power written through 8 chapters, I believe, 140 pages. I don't even know how many words. Yeah, I'm holding up okay. My voice probably doesn't sound like it agrees, but that's okay. I'm doing fine. As the rest of my water shoot. Holy heck, poggers, that's a lot of words. It sure is. So for anyone new to this entire thing, I could, if anybody has any questions, I could answer them, but generally, if you saw him earlier in chat, hello, I'm a juice box. He and I roleplay this story first and foremost. Ooh, thank you, Professor, for linking that. Okay, so if you want to stick around and listen to me read and, like, not be spoiled, read up to, like, I think I read to chapter 13 tonight. There are 19 chapters total online right now. And that's something I should address, because yes, with the 140 pages, 8 chapters, I will be releasing those every 2 weeks, and I'm probably going to release one of those 8 chapters immediately after this stream, so woohoo! Don't read it yet, though, if you don't want to be spoiled and you want to stick around with me reading it. You can go ahead and read ahead if you want. Totally up to you. But yeah. How it works is that, hello, I'm a Juicebox 9, we roleplay the story first, and then I take it and edit it to be a novel style, which I post here to AO3! I'm glad you like the reading streams, Professor! So yeah, what's 19 plus 8? 27? I think that's right. I'm about to look real dumb if I'm wrong. 19 plus 8. I should probably know, but I don't. 27! Nailed it. Cool. I had to double check. So, 19 chapters are currently public. Maybe 20 after tonight. Out of 27 so far. But yeah, guys, this is a huge project. Juicebox and I started role-playing this back in 2007. So this is an over a decade's worth of work, drawing, writing, brainstorming. There's a lot planned for this story, so you know, hopefully you guys are enjoying the ride. I hope you guys like my little surprise cosplay for tonight. For those of you who don't know, this was actually the model I had when I first started VTubing back in December of last year. Excuse me. Wow. Anyway. But yeah, so for obvious reasons that we all probably understand after hearing me read tonight, I didn't have to, but I decided to rebrand before any potential cease and desist orders came my way. Yup. December's gonna mark a year, baby! So, I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna hopefully get the day off for work so that I can stream on my end. What day is it? Maybe how nice would it be if it was just on a day off? Of course not. Wow, it's a Saturday. Whew. There's some competition. That's okay. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can swing having that day off so I can stream on my anniversary. But yeah, I like bringing back the old model for the reading streams at least. I have a 3D model for the goddess and live 2D model for the goddess for both 2D and 3D situations. But yeah, I think when I come back to reading these, having these reading streams, I'm gonna do it this way. Just because I don't know. Some people have been telling me, oh, Minami, I miss Kingdom Hearts Minami, and I'm like, she's still here, guys, she's still here. I'm right here. I didn't go nowhere, I'm right here. But yeah, so yeah. Ascended from crossover fanfic OC. Yeah. Which actually leads me to my next point. Would y'all be surprised? You probably wouldn't, but Kingdom Hearts Minami was not the first Minami. Believe it or not, Minami originated for an entirely different thing, and y'all probably guess what, but a little bit of history. She was recycled back in 2007 to be Keyblade wielder, and then recycled again to be my VTuber Soda when I first started. So, you know. But yeah, trying to think of any questions. Well, not any questions. If you guys have any questions, that's fine. But otherwise, I think I've said all I want to say. I should probably look at someone to raid since we are nearing the end of our stream. Look at me just trying to talk for 5 minutes and make this an hour-and-a-half long stream. The Minami rabbit hole go. I have a whole iceberg. Hold on, wait. Do I still have that here on my computer? Oh. Oh. I think I do. Iceberg. It really do. My iceberg goes deep, y'all. It goes deep. Okay. I'm gonna just see real quick if I have the iceberg. I do! Here it is. I feel like I need to update it already. So what do we got? I'm just gonna take over the overlay, it's fine. There we go. Ooh. I guess I should get rid of Chrome. There we go. Let me see. I'm pulling it up on full screen now. Okay. So Kinami, that's me. Pizza Friday, which is today. Which, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Y'all get a free pizza rain from me on this lovely Pizza Friday. Soon as I get it, there we go. Woohoo! Happy Pizza Friday, everybody! The iceberg is too powerful for it. Don't worry about it. Alphonse Elric, my husbando, mouth coping noises, which is just whenever I'm in a stressful situation, I go, like, I just make silly mouth noises. Give lots of respect. All the Inuyasha characters are in character perfectly. Yay! Thank you. Thank you, Majima. A lot of that character dialogue does go to Juicebox. Like, I wrote a lot of it too, and I edited it. So I take a little bit of credit, but yeah, Juicebox is a great co-writer. Like, we are making something, in my opinion, heckin' awesome, okay? Enrico is my son in Respite, which we'll be playing tomorrow night. I'm gonna try and stream it. It's just hard to stream after work. Multiversal Jail. That was a meme that came from Dog Meats. Where she drew a picture. I don't think I have that on this computer, but she had like a green screen picture of me holding her by her scruff. And she was like, hey, Goddess is throwing me in multiversal jail, like, put a background as to, like, why. It was great. Cursed fanfiction. Other than this one, I was on Booster's channel and read, like, really bad cursed fan, like smut, and yeah. And I believe there is a redeem for another stream like that for 100,000 channel points, because 50,000 channel points was doable, and I never thought that would ever happen, and then it happened, so it's fun. Axolotl song duet. Miss Lotto and I sang the Axolotl song together, and according to her, it was the first Axolotl song duet. So I take that with pride. Booster SpongeBob voice was super cursed. The whole thing was super cursed. Anyway. Majima, if you were there for the foot moment, you were also there for the cooking with peanut oil, where I always knew the expression is cooking with peanut oil. Everybody else says cooking with gas. And it's like, okay, whatever. Now I'm cooking with peanut oil. It's just a thing I say. Jusagi judges me for it. Foot kind of goes in hand with tasteful booba. Jusagi and I were having I don't even want to say an argument, that would imply we actually fought, but a debate about who was more say-so between the two of us, and he's like, well, I don't have tasteful booba, and I was referencing the picture that he got that was kind of like, not lewd, obviously, but he was you know, he was finishing up with work and taking off his tie, and it was all loose, and then he was taking off his shoes, so it showed his bare foot. And so I was like, oh yeah, well you had tasteful foot. And then I was like, and it all just rolled into foot, which, the not-so-say-so term, Fuda, you know. Anyway, Kaze stream, that was when I technically made my first appearance under the alias Kaze, before, because back when I was the Kingdom Hearts Minami, I was like a character, right? Like, I know I'm a character, but I was the Minami I was just reading about tonight. And so when we had these fanfiction reading streams, I had to actually cut some scenes out of the story because it wouldn't make sense for the protagonist to know someone else's perspective. Like, it was weird. And that actually had to do with the rebrand as well. Galaxy Maintenance Man. One day my washer was broken and I had just rebranded and was trying to figure out my lore because I thought I needed an extensive lore, so I kind of slipped out that I had a maintenance man coming, and I was like, oh, you know, the Galaxy Maintenance Man. Oh yeah, only the real OGs know what the bottom is, and it's censored for a reason. Kami is also one that not a lot of people know. Kami is the only hint I will give you at this current time as to who the first Minami was. And no, it has nothing to do with the fact that I am currently a goddess. That's just the whole thing coming full circle. VTuber gulps. I thought, you know, there's VTuber sneezes, and there's VTuber legs, and VTuber whatever, you know, VTuber everything. And me, in my drunken state one night, I was like, well, I bet no one made a VTuber gulps Twitter. So I made it, and I am happy to announce that I got one submission. I don't know, man. I was drunk. Christmas with a K. So that is actually Kingdom Hearts Minami's version of Christmas. She is not from quote-unquote our world. It's very similar. So with that, Juicebox and I were kind of like brainstorming alternate names because we wanted essentially a Christmas, but we kind of put our own spin on it and therefore gave it its own spelling. Christmas is also a nickname Chris from Deltarune's been called. Oh, really? Oh my gosh, I need to finish Deltarune. I haven't gotten to it yet. Well, Else, if you can read it, don't tell anybody. It's super secret, okay? I have it blurred for a reason. But yeah, you'll probably figure out the Kami here very shortly. I'm getting to be a little braver. And I think I'll be ready here soon to bring that variant of myself to light. Classic Nami! Yeah! Hi, Jisagi. We're going over my iceberg because I finished reading super freaking quick. But yeah, that's it. Boss is here. Well, dang it, now there's nothing on screen. Here, I'll make myself bigger. Hello. Hello. Hello, hello. This is now my just chatting scene, even though I have a just chatting scene. I think, honestly, though, I hate to say it, Jisagi, I think you rolled in at the end. I was actually looking to see who's online. Doo-doo-doo-ba-doo. Oh, you know what? Yeah, John loves anime. He's online right now. We fun news about that. He asked me recently if I wanted to do an interview, in which I said, "Oh my god, yes I do." So, we need to schedule that and get that going. But he actually invited me to play on his stream tonight, and I was like, "Well, I'm streaming after work, and I'm probably gonna be dead." But tell you what, I'll raid you. So I'm gonna keep my promise. So John is currently playing golf with friends, and he's celebrating a job promotion. So good for him. Oh, John loves anime. He is not a VTuber, but I think he's... I don't know, actually. He might be on the way. He might be in the process of becoming a VTuber. So, in the meantime, he is definitely a VTuber interviewer. So if you're a VTuber who likes interviews, I don't know, maybe give him a very special hello tonight. But otherwise, I'm gonna put in the raid. Everybody, do me a favor and tell John that he's been hit by a Minami tsunami. If you could do that for me. I had to celebrate somehow that I was cosplaying as my old VTuber Sona tonight. And yeah, so I'm going to try to stream tomorrow for Respite, but if not, go subscribe to Numbers and go follow Umbrent. Guaranteed they will be streaming. Jusagi, if you're still here, hopefully you're playing tomorrow too. But yeah, that's all I got. So that's Saturday, and then Sunday. That's one more thing. Jusagi and I are back to Resident Evil 5 on Sunday, baby! It's the Sunday, it's the stream before the Halloween stream, so we can't beat it. Even though we're totally not worried about that at all. Look, we might beat it on Halloween. There's 7 chapters. We're at chapter like 3.5. We might make it. Anyway, Minami Tsunami for John. Have a good night. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow, if not Sunday. Okay, bye, love you!